Hey everybody, Harry here to talk about one Tom Fitton, who was seen yesterday around the federal courthouse where the investigations into possible criminal conduct by Donald Trump are ongoing. Who is he and how does he figure in here, and does it matter that he was seen at the court? So first, who is he? Basically, anytime you mention his name, his profession seems to be, don't know if this is on his passport, but maybe so, conservative activist. He's a head of a group called Judicial Watch, but he's not even a lawyer, though he often has unhesitatingly opines on legal matters and in a comically wrong way. But he is one of Trump's sort of kitchen cabinet, and in particular, as we've talked about this before, Team Normal, all left behind, Team Grown Up, leaving Team Crazy / Team Kids. He was one of them. So he actually figures in both grand jury investigations, the one into the overall January 6th collection of 4 or 5 possible crimes by Trump, and Mar-a-Lago. Okay, as to the first, he is, I think by analysis, he's the third most prolific tweeter in all of 2020 to the whole election disinformation and big lie. And significantly, he's starting in like April. It's all going to be a fraud. They're going to take it from Trump. But in particular, as the January 6th committee document, he sends on October 31st a tweet that goes to Trump and others, although we don't have Trump engaging on it with him, but he says flat out, you're just going to say you won, and that's all, and the election is over. You know, exactly what Trump did, sort of reminiscent of the just say it's a problem, let my congressman do the work. So he is certainly kind of secondary evidence to the whole election lie and to Trump's intent, in the sense that this is not direct evidence exactly, others provide better evidence, but in the sense that it was the big lie was conceived of in advance without regard to whether they would win or lose, as opposed to anchored in a good faith belief that they had won, notwithstanding all the numbers. He is also been a fellow traveler, you could say, with the Stone and Bannon crowd. And in other words, if, as it seems to me, Trump is ever going to be tagged for criminal responsibility for the conspiracy parts of January 6th and tied directly to the actual action of the marauders, some of whom have now been convicted of seditious conspiracy. If Trump's going to be joined to those agreements and unlawful efforts, and it's not the only way to tag him for criminal responsibility for January 6th, but it would be a big one. It's always seemed to me it has to go through kind of a bridge conspiracy, or it's a big, a conspiracy can be a vast conspiracy as long as people agree and do one thing or another. But we have all the action on the ground. We have everything that Trump is doing at the White House. How do you get from one to the other? Trump wasn't having regular conversations with Stewart Rhodes or Enrique Tarrio, but guess who was? Roger Stone and maybe Bannon and guys like Fitton. So he's also, for January 6th, a player of sorts, if secondary, on the whole Stone-Bannon potential bridge conspiracy. He's a little stronger, it seems to me, on Mar-a-Lago, because he is the genius who comes up with the strategy of telling Trump, and by all accounts, gives it to him directly. They actually converse. After all the Team Normal abandons Trump and he has to look only to Team Crazy, like Giuliani or Sidney Powell, Fitton is very much in the room, and he's a guy who just reaches out to Trump and says, this is all bogus, the subpoena's illegitimate, the search was an unlawful raid, and you know why? Because you're the president and it's well established you can take any documents from the White House you want and anything you say is unclassified. All of the sort of crazy theories that Trump would float seem to have come from the, big brain of Fitton, who, does have his ear at this time. So he could be important to the Mar-a-Lago case somewhat directly to show Trump's intent. And this leads us to the most intriguing and potentially important reason for his little visit today. We don't know if they've talked to him before. He probably hasn't been before a grand jury, or we would know it. The intriguing possibility is that he is there to talk to Jack Smith and team about maybe cooperating against Trump. The biggest thing missing, which you probably would have at this stage of a complicated prosecution, but to all appearances, Jack Smith doesn't have, are cooperating defendants. And by that, I mean not the likes of Cassidy Hutchinson, who gives fantastic and credible testimony against Trump, but the likes of people who were involved criminally and are trying to save their own skin. And it strikes me that Fitton is the sort of guy who's he's in a kind of a sweet spot with only moderate liability, but doesn't want to go to jail, and yet not so much in the circle that he won't want to, that it'd be out of the question to cooperate if they really, really, really put the screws to him. So we don't know it. Understand this is just supposition based, but educated supposition based on my time at Department of Justice. Smith, if he's earnest about Mar-a-Lago, which I feel certain he is, has to be doing whatever he can to get a cooperating witness or two. So possibly that's the explanation for the visit today. It would work. You'd come with your lawyer. Smith would have already said, we're going to charge you with X, Y, and Z. Here's your chance to cooperate. They would come in, they would proffer what they could possibly do by way of cooperating against Trump. The government couldn't use it, but except now just take account of it to possibly enter in a cooperation agreement. And if they do, then Fitton has to sign on, and they would immediately yank him into the grand jury, tell his whole story, freeze him in before he would change or waffle, and have him ready to go with the promise that he would probably still, it's not out of the question, he could give him immunity, but the more normal course would be you still have to plead to this charge that we have over you, but we're going to tell the court that it really should give you an easy sentence, etc. In this case, maybe even a non-custodial, so he never has to go to jail. That's a big line for a lot of people. 1 day in jail versus 0. Okay, so here's how he figures in both January 6th and Mar-a-Lago. So it's significant that he's there no matter what, but it's uber significant and would kind of, put a huge flame behind the Mar-a-Lago prosecution if he's there to discuss possible cooperation. If so, there'll be plenty more to happen and to play out. Until then, talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.